Interrompu.
You. So now you may go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Julia Tanksley McCoy. I'm a web and graphic designer.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So what got you into web and graphic design? What was something that pushed you to do that?
So, long story. Uh, when I was wee little child, like 4 years old, my parents would make me sit down with my grandma and she'd babysit me. And to keep me quiet, she would sit there and give me paper and watercolor like paint. And I would sit there all day and like paint like family members, Pokemon. I was like super into that, and I still am, mind you. Um and we so I like continued like drawing all the time. Uh and at one point I got super into anime. So
Hmm.
super anime weeb kind of stuff. And I just kept drawing because I was like, oh, I want to make my own characters and I want to do all this other stuff. And at some point, I was like, I want to be an artist when I grow up because I see like Picasso and stuff like that. Because my other grandma, she actually went to art school before I was born. And
Hmm.
like, this is when she was like 60, 70 as well. And she went back to college, went to art college, and then she quit her job after I was born so that she could teach me art as well. So it was all kind of set up to be art wise. Um, they, I ended up saying like, okay, well, art can't really like be a, you know, career at first because I thought, oh, there's no career for artists unless I want to go into like big time money for like animation and drawing stuff because the stuff that I wanted to draw wasn't really stuff that they really want to make stuff unless you go to like Disney.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like, well, I'll go be an administrative assistant. That's a great idea, right? Well, I hated it. 2 weeks I was like, I have to get out of this. I hate this. This is awful. I cannot be an accountant, administrative assistant, whatever it was. So they had actually started at this college that I went to. It was a um, technical college. They had started a what's it called? A graphic design class. My brain scrambled.
It's okay.
Um, and they I was like, well, I'll just join that class. I want to actually do that because graphic design, I didn't think that was actually like a thing. I thought that was like, oh, you just do it yourself kind of thing. Well, I went in and I learned it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I could ever do because I was a whiz. I already knew like new Photoshop and stuff like that,
Hmm.
but I was a whiz at like InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop. And
Hmm.
they were like, oh, you already have the computer skills because this was digital graphic design, not just paper graphic design. And they taught you like printing, web design. I actually went through the web design class that they had because it was like an optional thing you could do. And I went through that. I was the only person who did in my
Wow.
like beginning class. So I did that and I was like really a whiz at it and all that. And that's where I ended up because I really wanted
Ooh.
to do that because I at least got to be creative, even if it was like on a technical term rather than just sit there all day and do something I don't want to do. At least I'm doing what I want to do.
Yes, yes, and that's always important, really. It's always about what you want to get yourself into. Like, it's not always about what other people want you to do. It's how you feel about something. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to achieve? Because at the end of the day, when you do something that makes you happy, you're gonna be excited to do it every day. It's
Exactly.
gonna feel like a hobby to you more than just a job.
Exactly. Like I get to do stuff for freelance still, even though my main job is I have to like design and take care of like customers and stuff like clients through our website. But I also get to I literally did whenever I first started this job, I actually they were like, oh, will you learn all this stuff so that we can redo the whole website? And I was like, oh, Sure, yeah. And I got like a whole like week to learn this stuff. Which it was super easy. It's all like WordPress stuff. So it's in Elementor, which is like the best
That's
program ever. I've
easy.
never needed
Yeah,
that.
those are easy.
Exactly. I love I I love every day that I get to use Elementor. The classes that I learned in college were actually like the coding ones, like with CSS and HTML and JavaScript. And I was like,
Mhm.
I hate this. I was like dreading the day that I would ever have to like actually learn the web stuff and like really use it because I hated it. It was awful. I hate number stuff like that because the Elementor stuff is amazing because I get to just be like, okay, I want this box to be over here
Yeah,
and look
right
pretty
there.
and go to this link.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
it's
And when you
like,
have to code it, you have to literally get behind the system, put all these
mm-hmm,
see, and I'm the same way as you. I have never ever like, now there are times where I have to go in and fix stuff where it just looks like it's wacky and it's messed up. Like I have to go sometimes and fix some things and play with this and play with that. But like I'm just like you. I hate it. I hate coding too. It's so annoying.
the worst.
I'd rather do the visual stuff and like look at it and actually like put the pieces and puzzles together because just it's more creative that way.
Yeah, because I think with like um the coding and stuff, you don't get to really be free with what you want to do because the code is limiting to a degree. So I think having just the drag and drop style as like Elementor and WordPress and Squarespace, and I
Hmm.
think Wix does it. I've never used
Hmm.
Wix, but I think that does it. Um, I think those are the best for like creatives, and I think that's the way to go because personally, I would want to die if I ever had to like actually code something.
Yes,
Like
and
I
I
love to learn coding, and my friend can do it because he's an engineer, and I'm
oh
like, oh my
wow.
gosh, I wish I could do that because that'd be so fun. But at the same time, I hate it.
See, and the thing is, like, Wix is like you said about WordPress and all that. Wix is like probably one of the hardest. I mean, Wix is easy, but their plans, the way they have it set up, it's so. I didn't like it. I actually switched over my portfolio from Wix to WordPress because I was like, dude, y'all have me paying all this money every month when I can get all this stuff for free at WordPress. All right, bye.
Exactly. Like I started like trying to use Wix when it first came out, and I hated it. And I was like, I'm never gonna use that again. I hate trying to touch this because it's so like not to like uh what's the word?
Shame Wix or anything like
They
that.
say Wix, but their user system is not nice. Squarespace, it's like Squarespace is a lot better for that stuff because if you're just
Hmm.
literally wanting a website to say, hey, I have this product or I have this service, come do this and pay me money. If you just want a website that says that, it's the best. And WordPress, I think, adds way more to
It
it.
gets deeper. Yeah, it gets
Yeah,
deeper.
because you can do so much because there's so many plugins that you can do. Like, and there's so many other companies that work into WordPress, especially like because our company uses like Keep and Infusionsoft and stuff like that to like manage our clients and stuff. And it's so crazy the stuff that they could do. And I'm like, I want to learn it all. It's like, oh goodness, I could never learn all of this.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So what was the first website that you ever built that you had to create?
Um, so really it was like the first time I ever had to. My parents wanted a website, and this is when I was actually using Wix. They were like, "Oh, make us a website because you're a designer and you know all this graphic stuff." I'm like, I don't know any web hosting things because they actually didn't teach me that in college. Surprisingly, they just told me like, "Oh yeah, you can do web hosting," and I'm like, "What is that?" Um, because our teacher wasn't actually like a web designer or anything, so that's a whole nother story. But
Wow.
not to get off topic on that, but so I was like, oh, well, I'll use Wix because I hear everybody using Wix. I went on there and I hated it. Well, years later, I learned how to do it a little bit on like Squarespace and stuff, and I was kind of understood it. But then when I got to this company, I basically they were like, go sit down, learn this stuff, and you'll be good to go. And I'm like, okay, because I'll say my best skill is that I can look up anything and learn it really fast because I'm the YouTube finding queen.
Mm.
Of like finding tutorials because I'll go in and just be like, oh, I want to learn how to make this thing do this, and there'll be a tutorial on it. I'm like, oh, I found it. But somebody else is like, I tried to learn how to do that, and there was no tutorials, and I'm like, you weren't looking in the wrong for the right spot. So they basically, I sat down and looked at it for like a whole week of like how to learn web WordPress, Elementor, all the programs that we use. And I was like, oh, this is super easy because it's already set up mostly for me. It's the setup part that would probably be like, oh, this is so annoying. Um, and that was the first website I really redid because I knew how to do the design part and make it like look nice with like the UI and the UX and all that.
Hmm.
But I wasn't the programming part. And then when I learned Elementor, I was like, oh my gosh, this solves everything that I could do because I was so good at the web design part and like the designing of it. It was just the programming was the issue. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can do it finally.
Oh Lord, that
Crazy.
that reminds me back of my little first website that I ever built too. Now that you think about it, you brought me back to memories. My first website I ever built was the interview site actually. It was pretty bad though. It was very it was pretty bad. I mean, like when you went on the page, there was a bunch of written interviews. There were no pictures. It was just people's, and this was 2016, mind you. I've been like pretty much learning for like 5 years of my life on how to build websites. Like I've been self-taught, so I've self-taught, and I'm also doing online school now too, because I'm actually getting into more of wanting to work for some corporations building their stuff. So,
Yeah,
um, but really that was like my first ever website, and I was like, this interview website's not going anywhere. This sucks. So here we are, 5 years later. People Globally comes out. I release a brand new interview website, and just everything just looks incredible. Just the whole user experience of it all is incredible. Like when you go on the site, there's a search bar, there's how many interviews have been done, there's video interviews you can find. The menus are so laid out so perfectly. It's just you can find what you're looking for on that site without having to stress yourself out.
exactly. And it's like our biggest client thing. And they're like, oh, I can't find anything. It's like, I'm helping you literally find it. I think there's just some people don't know how to use
They don't know how to
it.
use a search bar. They don't know how
Exactly.
to use a search bar. Like we put search bars on our websites for reasons. And there's three places you will find a search bar: in the middle, on the left, and on the right. Look.
The big button that says log in here or find this video here, and they just can't seem to find it. It's like, are you just not looking? Look.
Oh man, just some people just don't want to look,
They're
or
just kind of like
or
the deer
lazy,
in the headlights kind of thing.
or just lazy. That's what that is. They're just lazy. They really
That's
are.
it.
So
You
what
have to be
is?
like, oops, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's like, I don't want to tell people they're lazy, but it's like, I'm not going to tell you, but
I'm gonna keep it a secret. You'll find out
exactly.
yourself.
Exactly.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. So what is a struggle that you faced on trying to become a web designer or a web or graphic designer? What's something that you've struggled with getting to this point?
So, like, in general, or just like before all this?
Hmm. I'll say in general.
So, the
Keep
biggest
it
struggle
open
is
and talk about
really, sorry. Um, I think the biggest issue is always trying to figure out what your client really, really wants because they always have this idea in their head of, oh, I want this logo to look like this. And it's like, well, that logo looks pretty bad. Or their website's like, oh, I want this, this, and this, and this. And it's like, you can't have that on there with also having this. And there's also limitations to things. So we got to think about that. And it's kind of just also thinking of like what the next thing is that you want to do.
it.
Because if something because you don't want something to look the same. That's when something I always kind of struggle with is like, I'm like, oh, I don't want it to look the same every time on somebody's logo or somebody's website or something. Um, or have like this file look the exact same as this other person's, and then they meet and it's like, oh crap, it's like always the biggest struggle. And also kind of brainstorming is a little bit of struggle for me because I always have this problem where I'm like, oh, that kind of looks the same as this last sketch I did or something, and it's like I don't want it to look the same. I want to have some many different ideas so the client can see something and be like, oh, I like that one out of that bunch.
Mm,
So that's always the biggest struggle, and that was always the biggest struggle kind of doing that is trying to I have like the issue of people pleasing, sadly, and I wish I didn't as I do. uh, but that's always been the problem is like I want to please the client as much as possible to make sure that they have what they want.
But that's important though. So, I mean,
Yeah,
as long as they're happy and they can walk away knowing that they spent their money well on you building
yeah.
what you wanted for them, I mean, shoot, that's all that matters. If they need something you can fix, I mean, you can fix it, you know. But other than that, as long as they're happy, they should be frolicking in the sea wherever they're at, having a good time. So
Some really just want you to do the design, like the making of it. They don't want to, like, they're like, okay, I have this design already. I don't care how it looks. I want it to look exactly like this. You're going to make it for me.
pretty much that's pretty much what they say.
Because that happened one time where I was like, oh, I made like all these pretty logos and I even did like a caricature of the person for the logo. And they're like, I don't really like it. We're gonna do something totally different. I want this. And then showed me like this MS Paint drawing with like clip art and stuff that they had like put together on their iPad. And I was like, please do not show that to me again. But yes, I will make it for you. And they still use the logo today. And I think I did a pretty good job. I would definitely change some things about it nowadays. But it's one of those things where that's kind of also growing up in design is like, you're like, oh, I look back on it and I don't think that could have been my best work, but now I can do it. And I think that's how a lot of designers also, even like the top guys, are like, oh, well, I didn't like that, so I'm gonna go back and change it because I've seen a lot of people do that, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm not alone.
Yeah, it's like it's creative. Like at the end of the day, we're all learning. We're all learning. Like we never stop learning because there's just so many different people, so many different projects, so many different things that we're doing where it's just like we're constantly learning how to build something. And when we do it and we built this person's project and we built this person's project and we built this person's project, then we start becoming a master at just even more. And it's just like, whoa, we did all this. We put all this together. Okay.
Exactly. It's like, wow, I did all this. What?
It's like those dudes who make like the Uber apps and the DoorDash app and all those apps. Like just think about that. Like that's so cool. Imagine being able to like be the person behind like the creation of like DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats or like that.
That'd be the coolest thing ever. Like, also, you'd have a lot of money, buku money.
You actually would because they pay a lot of money to their designers. Fortunately, fortunately, yes,
Yeah.
to do their apps, yes, they definitely do. Their drivers maybe not so much. I mean, the drivers get decent money, but when you get to the corporate level, it's like, yeah, that door opens up a whole lot more.
Yeah.
So it's a different ball game with them. But yes, that's super dope. I mean, it's awesome that, as designers we get to learn, we get to implement, we get to build, we get to create. And, when we see something we like to change, we change it, to the best abilities that we can do it again. So it's pretty dope. I think that's really, really awesome. That is super awesome.
'Cause, I mean, I think we're always learning because there's always new things coming out design wise, like especially with like Adobe and different programs coming out. There's always something new. And I love that because it's like, oh, I get to play with it. It's a new play
Yes.
toy. Because I always watch these people who like do tutorials on how to do like a certain effect in Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign, and it's like, oh my gosh, how did you learn that with the do tool? Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
So Now I gotta ask for your design tool. What design tools do you use? Do you use a laptop or anything to create your designs on sometimes, or what laptop
So
or do you use?
so I do use like a laptop. It varies on like where I am at because I have my own personal laptop and I also have my computer at work. And I think I really want to get the computer that I have at work. It's so nice. They bought me a new one like when I first started and it was so nice. And I'm like, I gotta get one for home now.
Which one is
Uh,
it? What kind is it? Did they give you like a
so
Surface?
it's a Asus ZenBook Flip 15. So it's one of those ones that you can like turn into a tablet if you really wanted it to.
See,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm looking for. I actually, because like
Oh,
as a designer, we need those type of tools because like when you flip it
I
over, you can actually like create stuff, draw, and it's
was
just
like I haven't gotten used to the whole drawing on the tablet itself. I'm more used to having like the stationary tablet on the desk that you draw on and then look at the screen while you're doing it because that's how I was taught. So it's I like that a little bit personally right now, but I want to get to the point where I can like go get an Apple tablet and draw on that. So I'm excited to like learn that kind of stuff.
yes, yes, yes. That is so dope. So, what is a positive message you would like to give out to other designers out there?
I think the best way I can say to people is like don't don't question yourself too much because that's also a problem I always get is like getting into a rut of like, oh gosh, they're not gonna like it. Oh gosh, it's looks awful or something. And it's like most of the time, I think a lot of times I see a lot of people like, oh, I hate my art, I hate my design or something like that. And it's like, no, it looks really good actually. And I think the biggest thing is don't put yourself down. Like, don't question yourself and don't put yourself down just because you personally don't like it because that happens a lot to a lot of people and I think that happens a lot in the art industry no matter what because people are like, oh, I'm so critical of my art, I see all these people successful on it, and I think that those people have confidence to a degree because I know like big time people also don't have confidence sometimes in their stuff and they question it. I mean, like look at all the people back then used to have like Van Gogh and stuff. That's like the
Hmm.
first mine is like they didn't have confidence either, but now we consider them one of the greatest people on earth on artists. So I I think sometimes you just don't question it to a degree. And I have to work on that. And that's something everybody has to work on, especially nowadays. Like
Yes.
everybody kind of questions themselves saying, oh, I don't look good in this outfit, or oh, I don't think something looks right today, or something like that, or somebody's going to judge me on it. And it's like, don't let people judge you as well.
Yes, yes,
And
yes. Because
also take criticism.
yes, yes. Oh my gosh. One thing
Don't
that
be offended.
what
Yeah.
you said earlier, don't be judging people. That's like something that's like really, 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 really hard that people are doing in this world nowadays. And I
Hmm.
think like instead of people looking on an outer appearance of someone, they need to start looking more on the inner side of people because we
Absolutely.
all are so unique and we just don't realize it. We don't realize how you like I hear so many people tell me like Jeremy, um, I don't think that I can share my story because I'm not interesting enough. Well, why do you feel that way? Like that's like you said, questioning yourself. Why are you questioning
Yeah.
who you are? You don't even know what questions I'm gonna ask. You don't even know how I'm gonna open up yourself. How I'm gonna open up those doors to free yourself, free your thoughts. Like, you don't know that because it's just when I ask you the questions, your brain goes, oh, I know
Yeah.
what to say. It's a quick brain process and your brain just thinks 100 miles an hour. And then as that person asks you that question, next you know, you start coming out of your mouth saying what you got to say. And it's like you said, people question themselves too much and they shouldn't. They should never judge themselves or doubt themselves. So that's
That's
good.
one thing I say to stand by is be yourself. Don't let like if you're gonna be nerdy. Because I have like so much nerdy stuff on my desk at work. I'm like, I have to have my personality, or I will literally die because I'm like that's when so like always. be comfortable in your own skin. Don't let people judge you. And if somebody judges you, they're clearly like not happy with how they are. So they need to work
Mhm.
on themselves too. And it's like everybody has opinions and everybody's opinions are good to have. That doesn't mean they are the best opinions, but they still are allowed to have them.
Mhm.
And I think being comfortable with yourself is going to be the biggest thing that people should always work on. Because I'm like, I don't want people thinking, oh, I have to look a certain way in front of people or be a certain way around certain people. It's like, I, mind you, there are like social things that you should be kind of like a little bit more professional around people, but you should still be like yourself around people because I work in a very professional setting. So I'm like, I don't want to be the uptight, oh, I have to be super professional and serious and all that. I gotta be nice to people. I hate being rude to people. So it's
Mhm.
like I'm gonna be as nice as possible and I'm also gonna try and be myself at the same time and try not say like weird things. Depending on the people. If the people are like, oh, I'm super dirty too, I'll be like, yeah.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, what are some goals that you have right now?
My biggest goal is I'm actually learning marketing because I want to learn how to do like social marketing and emails because that's like a big part in my role in my job. So I'm like, I want to get it off my because I'm an assistant to the guy who does like all the back end work. I'm the technical graphical design and assistant. And he does all the like copy right now. And I try and write it myself and then he goes in and edits it. But I want to get to the point where I don't have to get him to edit it. I want to be able to write it myself and say, "Oh, hey, I'm putting this email out. Bye." Uh, and it's one of those things where I think marketing, like, I see a lot of people whenever like looking for jobs and stuff, they're like, "Oh, we need a marketing and graphic designer." I see why they need that now, but I think, um, sorry,
It's okay.
they have to I think that there's a lot of people who are really good at marketing because my boss, he's really great at marketing. I suck at it. He's very, I've gotten better. I've gotten a lot better, he said. He's like, oh, you've gotten so much better since you first started. And I'm like, but I'm not the best at it. And I think, but the problem is he sucks at he in his own words has said, he's like, I suck at graphic design. And I'm like, you don't suck. Don't say that about yourself. But it's like, uh, it's one of those things where it's like there are people who are graphic designers, there's people who are marketers, but you should also try and be able to do all the other stuff along with that. And I think that's my biggest goal right now is the marketing whole aspect. It's definitely helping me in my job.
Because you can have many hats. You can have many hats on.
Exactly. Because I have started to become the assistant to where it's like, oh, he's out of town right now, or he's not in the office right this second. We can't get a hold of him because he has a hard time getting a hold of. Uh, and they're like, oh, Julia, what do we got to do for this client? It's his account's not working. I'm like, okay, let me go in real quick. Start to become the IT person. So
You wear different hats around the office.
exactly.
See, but that's a good thing though, because you're learning all these skills that you're implementing and gaining the knowledge of. So that's very, very wonderful. And marketing is such a great thing because when you learn marketing, you become an OG. You can pretty much sell anybody
Do
anything.
all.
Oh, you want to buy
Do
a
all.
t-shirt?
And gal.
You want to buy a t-shirt?
Buy
Here
this
you go.
t-shirt. It's a great t-shirt. You should buy this t-shirt.
Want to buy this brand new earring? Yeah, here you go.
Want to go to this like class? Go to this nursing class because like one of my clients was like, "Oh, I'm gonna try and do this nursing class," and I'm like, "Okay, I guess I can make a website for you for that."
See, that's dope. That's pretty dope though. That's really dope. So, what was okay, here we go. So, what was the hardest project you've had to do?
Hardest project. Wow. Okay. I like looking back on it, and they're like not super hard, but at the time they're super hard. Uh, it's always one of those like mass starting things. It's always the setup stuff because I had my own website for like a little bit that I wanted to do a blog on. I never really like wanted to continue doing it, so I canceled it. but setting that up and deciding like for yourself, trying to decide what you want and to show people what you want is the hardest, I think, because it was like the hardest part was like, okay, I want my website to look like this, but I also want to keep and design things. And it was like, oh crap, I don't know what I want to do.
That is hard. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest with you. Creating your own when it's coming to your own website, because like I said, I've been creating my own, and I'm sticking to the ones I got now. I don't think I'm giving them up at all. I'm keeping them. They've all done me well. You know, I've pretty much implemented so much money into them. They're an investment right now, and they're really starting to pay off for me. So I just think they're at this point. They're at the point where the only thing they need is traffic.
Yeah. That's always like the biggest thing is trying to get people to it. It's like,
Getting
get
people
in there.
to yes, getting people to it is the like it and that's one of the hardest challenges I face. But I would say like my first website I ever built that I changed that I actually made into a search engine. That one's doing really well actually. That one's like it's
Hey.
it's a money maker. It's one of those cash cows. Like I can just throw any type of content I want on there. I can talk about anything. It doesn't matter what it is, and it'll just eat it alive, get a bunch of traffic, and just start spitting out ad revenue to it. It's so weird how that site like changed from like so it went from like so one year it went from 200,000 views in one year to 500,000 the next. I'm like, how in the heck did you double where you get?
I'm jealous. I need to get in on it.
It's just so crazy how much how like but the hardest thing is I would say the hardest thing is affiliate like you said marketing, and
Yeah.
I'm learning affiliate marketing too myself. I think affiliate marketing is a very lucrative business, but it's very difficult. It's probably really difficult.
Yeah. It's like the biggest thing is going to be for me is my husband and I want to start like a movie blog, and because we watch like a ton of movies, so we're like we're gonna want to do movie reviews, and the marketing for that's going to be like crazy, and I'm not sure how it's gonna get
Email
because I
marketing is
never.
always email marketing is always the best. You know what? Now
Yeah.
that I think about that, what you guys could do is have like a little pop-up that shows up or have a little thing on the website that says RSVP for latest and
Yeah.
greatest movies that come out. And then once you've gotten
Yeah.
so many subscribers that have came to the site, that you can just be like, okay, site's coming out like ding.
That's a great idea, actually, as I've talked to so many people about like marketing stuff. Because I have a friend at work, she does like a book blog, and she is like, "Oh, you got to do like all this stuff," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot of marketing."
It's
Like
it
I'm
is
ready to do it. I want to do it so bad, but the idea of it's just like so daunting, you know?
you should no, you should. If you could create another site that's like IMDb, that would be great.
Hmm. Oh, it'd be so much fun because well, I mean, it's gonna be just like us talking about it because what we do is like go to movies and we'll talk about them afterwards. And we're like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we talk about them so much that we might as well just make it where people can get on the conversation.
That's like IMDb, essentially. Like, well, IMDb is more like they have movies on there. They tell you what's in the movies. They tell you some critic
Yeah.
ratings and all that good stuff. It's crazy. I actually downloaded the app for IMDb, so I use it all the
It,
time. I never thought I would ever use IMDb in my life. I always seen the site, and the next thing you know, I have a stinking app on my phone, and I look at it every day. Insane. It is insane. See, when you get older, you
hilarious.
look at all this stuff that you never thought that you would look at. Like when I was older, when I was younger, I was always into these games, and now that I'm older, I go on websites like New York Times and Forbes and
Ooh,
IMDb, and
I
I'm
would
like,
never imagine myself doing that.
I would never imagine myself going on these sites,
Go
but they're just so interesting to look
keep
at.
up with news. Exactly.
But I like looking at them because it's like when you're building your own stuff, at least you could look at what their stuff looks like and kind of
Mhm.
just take
Well,
some of
that's
the
also what's
ideas and
insane.
implement them in what you have.
Exactly, because like with design, it's like there's always going to be. I think a lot of people like are like, "Oh, I look like I'm copying somebody." Well, it's like clearly that works, so why not kind of take it a little bit? Obviously, it's kind of like that joke where it's like, "Hey, can I borrow your homework?" Yeah, but change it up a little bit. It's kind of like that, but I'm like, I don't want to copy it too much, and that's also like a thing with like the design whole part. It's like trying to make sure you don't like look like the other person, but
Exactly.
make it enough of yourself.
That is
Like
true.
a
That is
table.
very, very true. That is very, 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 very true. So the last question I want to ask Julie is, what is some things, other things you want to tell people about yourself?
Um, I don't know, like off the top of my head, that would be relevant. Uh, I goodness, I don't know off the top of my head. I guess like I'm like a biggest movie like buff ever. I wouldn't say that, but like impersonally, I think I'm like a huge movie buff about really nerdy things because I could tell you like an actor who oh he does this movie, this movie, this movie, and like a voice actor who works in this show, this show, this show. Only because like I recognize it because I'm like, oh wait, it's that one dude from that one thing. And it's always like recognizing that kind of stuff. And I think that kind of helps me in my career where I'm like really detail oriented. And it's like, oh, that doesn't look right. That's not supposed to look like that.
Oh, that's awesome. So the bonus question I have now is, how long have you been married? Because you did say you were married.
Oh,
Bonus question.
I've been married, what has it been? It's been 2 years, but we've been together for next year in June will be 10 years we've been together. Because we actually met each other freshman year of high school. And he like we were like really good friends because we had the same friend group, but he like left and I was like, dang, I kind of had a crush on that guy. So I texted him, and so yeah, the story kind of, it goes from there.
Hey, I kind of
I
had a
was
crush
like,
on the kid. Okay, now I want him. Text him.
he's super shy, so I don't think he'd do an interview, but he's like, uh, he would he's like, oh, I don't like that girl. He always says that, but I'm like, you liked me. Don't even talk. You clearly liked me enough to let me go on a date with you after like you left school. Because it was like the summer after freshman year and he went to homeschooling. And I was like, I texted him over that and I was like, hey, do you wanna like, hey, so this my boyfriend had like broken up with me at the time and I texted him because I was like, I liked him. I had a crush on him, but it was like I was in a relationship with another guy who I also liked. It was a weird situation. And I ended up texting him and he was like, oh, well, do you want to go out sometime? I was like, sure. So then we were like boyfriend and girlfriend from there on out, and then we got married. So
Hey, look, the true happily ever after story right there. That's beautiful.
that's
My
really
goal, I, I
found
think,
for
I,
here.
I think that's my last step in life, honestly. Like I've got all the opportunities in front of my face, everything I need. Like I'm building my skills, my knowledge. I think that's that last thing, that last step. But I think it's gonna be challenging for my personally me. I think it's gonna be challenging for me because of the situation I'm gonna be putting my wife in as
Mm.
far as like interviewing all of these people around the world, like, because
Yeah.
she's gonna have those questions. You know those questions are gonna arise. So what did you and that girl talk about?
My husband's like, "Did you get an interview? What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Just ask the question." It's not like he's gonna be like, "So what is your opinion on some like political thing?" And it's like, I don't think he's gonna be asking me any sorts of questions like that.
I just feel
So
like
yeah, like I can really understand that.
I just feel like every girlfriend or wife, like whenever I get like a girlfriend or when I get married or something, I feel like they're gonna be like a little insecure about me like interviewing everyone, especially the girls. They're gonna feel some type of way because they're not gonna like seeing me on Zoom with another lady. They're gonna think something is up, and I'm like, look, if you want to join my Zoom calls, you are perfectly free to join the call and sit yourself right there.
Exactly. She could join in on it. She could be like another interviewer. There's always
Ex-
those types.
Exactly. There's always. Now we might have to upgrade the Zoom plan, but hey, because Zoom only allows two people in. Zoom only allows one per two people in. you can do unlimited, but once you start getting to that 3 people, oh no, once you go past that
Like,
45-minute limit, no sir, you got to pay every month. Okay.
like oh gosh. She'll start have to pay for sure.
yes,
You just have to sit on the calls.
just wish me the best of luck, because that I think that's another thing I face too, because I like see everybody getting married. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're getting married, and I'm just sitting here like, bro, I'm still single. And I think to myself, like, it's probably because of why I interview people around the world, and these girls are so insecure about that, and they do not like that.
That's also come back to the thing where it's like, don't let people like judge you. It's like, do what you want to do. And if they don't support it or anything, it's like, well, then you clearly don't want to support me. Not to be like, oh, you don't support me kind of thing, but you know what I mean? Like, not to
Exactly.
come off as,
But it's the truth,
but
though.
exactly,
You should always support somebody in their endeavors. So that's
exactly.
something beautiful. But like, I really thank you, Julia, for this interview. It was awesome. It was so
Not a
awesome.
problem. I enjoyed it. It was super fun.
It was. It really was. It was so cool to like talk about these things and get real technical, and really just open those doors of the design world, and just really open up about our lives a little deep in depth about like what we've done as designers and how we build and how we're growing. Like that's so cool to have this conversation. And again, it's so important to have these conversations because it makes for a better world. It makes us better
Mhm.
people. We can open up more, and we'll be willing to actually want to be out of that corner that we sometimes put ourselves in whenever we feel like we don't have anybody. So
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that's so we live in a digital age, but we're so disconnected nowadays that I think a lot of people don't get that one-on-one connection and talking. Even if it's over Zoom, I think a lot of people need to like start having that where it's like, oh, hey, how are you? Talk, 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 you know?
exactly. And I think one day what I might start doing, and you're probably gonna think this is a great idea, but I think like I'm gonna probably next year I'm gonna pay for like a Zoom plan, an extra Zoom plan, and I'm gonna have like up to 2 or 3 people join, and we're just gonna have conversations, and those are gonna be the
Yeah.
interviews.
That'd be really fun. I think that would work really well.
Like I would literally sit there. I'd be the commentator. I'm the guy that's right here. Then you have like 3 other people here, and I'm asking the question, and then each person takes their moment to answer the question that I just asked.
Mhm. That sounds like a really fun idea because I see kind of stuff like that. Companies do that with like, oh, hey, we're sending out a new feature kind of thing. That would be like perfect just for like conversations. I think that would really be fun.
Yes, the Zoom little conversations where everybody could talk to each other, and I can invite so many people because I reach out to pretty much everybody on social media. So I think it would be cool inviting people to that thing. So yes, yes, I think that'd be a new good thing for next year, the YouTube and everything. I think the people on YouTube will love it.
I think it'd be super fun because then it would get people together and people like from different industries. I think a lot of people who are like they're so close knit in their bubbles of like, oh, I'm only in this one industry. It's like you got to expand out, I think.
Hmm.
And talking to more people, it brings out more inspiration for things because I would never think like, oh, I'm going to go talk to this person about this thing and talking to somebody about it. It's like, oh, that was so inspirational. I want to do something about it now, or I want to help out with it, or I want to talk about it more to other people. And I think that brings people closer together, kind of thing.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. So beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Julia. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. We will keep in touch. We will definitely
Okay.
keep
Yeah,
in touch.
definitely.
But thank you so much. I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.